Welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief. I'm Adam Lucente. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that it will be, quote, traumatic if Iran does not agree to a new nuclear deal. Trump repeated that he discussed the issue with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this week, but said the decision on how to respond to Iran is ultimately his. Listen to this audio, courtesy of the White House.
We have to make a deal, otherwise it's going to be very traumatic. Very traumatic. I don't want that to happen, but we have to make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time, and they got Midnight Hammer instead. And this will be very traumatic for Iran if they don't make a deal. Look, if they don't make a deal, then it'll be a different story. But we had a very good meeting yesterday with Bibi Netanyahu, and he understands, but it's ultimately up to me. If the deal isn't a very fair deal and a very good deal with Iran, then it's going to be, I think, a very difficult time for them.
When asked by reporters of a timeline for the talks, Trump said, quote, I guess over the next month. But he did not commit to a formal timeline, adding that it should be wrapped up, quote, quickly. The comments came hours after Netanyahu departed Washington, having met with Trump the day prior. Netanyahu told Israeli media on Thursday that he expressed, quote, skepticism about any deal with Iran, but added that he has hope the American president is creating conditions for a good agreement to be reached. In a Truth Social post on Wednesday, Trump said he insisted to Netanyahu that the talks continue. Now, for context, the U.S. and Iran resumed their nuclear talks in Oman last week, the first meeting since the 12-day war in June of 2025. Though both sides have indicated a desire for a new round of deliberations, no time or place has been set. So where does that leave us? It appears the talks are still in play, though the U.S. notably has dispatched a second aircraft carrier to the Middle East, and there's a lot of uncertainty about how all this will play out. Remember that the last war likewise followed rounds of negotiations. The U.S. and Israel want any new deal to cover Iran's ballistic missiles program and support of proxies, in addition to the nuclear file, but Iran has not committed to this. Gulf states, Turkey, and others in the region also back the diplomacy track. Meanwhile, the crackdown against protesters and rioters in Iran is ongoing, and the U.S.-based human rights activists news agency recently said that the death toll has surpassed 7,000. Why mention this? Well, these protests mark the biggest challenge to Islamic Republic rule in years, adding pressure on Tehran amid the talks. It's also interesting that Trump slammed Israeli President Isaac Herzog on Thursday for not pardoning Netanyahu in the now 6-year-long bribery and fraud trial against the premier. Helping us make sense of all this in this episode is Al Monitor's Israel Pulse columnist Ben Caspit. Ben assesses how successful Netanyahu may have been in pushing Trump to aim for a broader Iran deal, what options Israel has if diplomacy fails, especially with regards to the ballistic missiles, and how Israeli leaders are dealing with growing hostility towards them from the American right. We also go over how Trump's scathing criticism of Herzog is being received over there. Hope you enjoy. Ben, welcome back to the Al Monitor Brief.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Ben, I want to start by kind of debriefing Netanyahu's trip to Washington. How successful do you think the Israeli Prime Minister was in convincing Trump to push for the inclusion of ballistic missiles and Iranian proxies in any deal with Tehran?
The real deal now is the missiles. I think no one is really talking now about the proxies because the proxies are in a very, very bad shape. Not a real threat right now from the proxies to Israel, but the missiles is right now Israel's number one problem in the region. And we have to say it correctly, we don't really know how successful was the Prime Minister. The president is still on camera and on record, is still talking about no missiles, but no one in Israel is convinced that he really is committed in the bottom line to force the Iranian regime to get rid of its missiles, because right now this is the last card that this regime has regarding Israel, regarding staying in power. This is the last weapon, and our side, our intelligence, think that there is no way the Iranians will be able to give the president something that is not, only empty headlines. So the big worry is that Trump will go to the negotiation, and the Iranians, as we know, are the masters of bazaar. They are experts in tiring you and maneuvering you in negotiation, and then they will let him. They will be more flexible in the nuclear issue, and then maybe the president will be tired or will lose interest, and we will stay with the Iranian missiles. So right now, I don't have a real answer to your question. I just only said that the worry in our side is real.
No, that makes sense. If the diplomacy fails, and even if they do reach a deal, if it doesn't include the missiles, what do you think Israel's options are for dealing with Iran in such a scenario? Like, would Israel prefer another American military action, or to perhaps go after Iran themselves, or what else is on the table in that respect?
You have to understand that the Israeli dream for decades was that the United States of America will lead the effort against Iran. Many prime ministers and the chiefs of staff and the intelligence chiefs were united. I'm talking about decades, about 25 years, consecutive years. Israel should not lead this fight. It's too big on us. You need here a superpower, and this dream came true. It was fully fulfilled in the 12 days of the war. Although Israel broke the war and made most of the job, when you needed the superpower to get rid of Fordo, something we couldn't do, so it came. So right now, the best scenario is still not leading, not taking it to ourselves because it's too big, although it's possible. But I think Netanyahu's best bet will be let Trump make the attack and Israel take part in it, take a piece of the action, join. Not maybe be the best man, but not the bride or groom, because don't forget, Adam, we are in an election year. The election in Israel will take place this year. It can be June, July, or September, November, something like this. And taking part in this combined attack, if it's successful, can be also the dream card for Netanyahu for the election. But in any case, the plan and the wish is that America will do it because only America can do it fast, clean as possible, and efficient.
As a quick follow-up, is Israel planning at all for the possibility that they could do such an attack on their own without American help, especially if a few years down the road there's a change in the U.S. administration?
Yes, this is crucial because right now we have the best administration that we can think about, especially thinking about the possibility that the Democrats will come back to power. This is a nightmare for Netanyahu. I don't know if Netanyahu will be there, but yes, Israel is always planning to do it on its own. The most known Israeli slogan is that Israel is the only place in the world where Jews can defend themselves by themselves. But and I think talking about having said that most of the job regarding the nuclear facility was done, Israel can deal with the ballistic missile project in a very efficient way, as we demonstrated and showed in the 12 days of the war. We have very good intelligence. We are capable of flying there safely, getting back. By the way, before the American attack on Iran, the Israeli Air Force showed and even made pilots for the American planes that demonstrated the way that it was so easy and safe to fly over Tehran those days after the work that we have done on all the missiles and the radars and all these systems that were destroyed in the first strike. So Israel is capable taking care of the ballistic missiles, hitting it again. We already hit it in the war, but the Iranian ability to regroup and to try and fix part of it surprised Israel. So right now, they are not back in the 2000 missile figure, but they are not very far from it. And we surely can deal with it. But if you want to deal with Iran as a project to save the Iranian people from their monstrous regime, and to take care of all the other missions, then Israel alone, it will be close to impossible. And I have to add here, Adam, that not even an American attack will make sure that the regime will fall. Right now, no one can promise the president, and I think this is one of the problems, that, and the president, as you know him, wants a very, very swift, quick and safe hit. He doesn't want now a 12 months or even not 12 weeks war. No one can give him a guarantee that this will make the ayatollahs to fall immediately. So you can pay the money but not get the goods. And this is, I think, the reason that the president is preferring to go for negotiation first.
That's a good segue to something else I wanted to ask you about what you wrote on Friday. How viable does Israel view this option of continuing to pressure Iran with the goal of collapsing the regime? And I mean, instead of a new deal, instead of a military action, but keeping up the pressure of the sanctions with the hope that with these recent protests we've seen, the Iranian regime will collapse. What's Israel's view on that?
This is very important because when we talk to our allies in the region, a few of them are formal and a few of them are secret. And you know what I mean here. They think that the best way to deal with the Iranian regime is not doing anything except harsher sanctions, even a blockade, because the regime is in such a bad shape. It was never, ever been in such a bad shape. It cannot recover. They don't have the resources. They don't have the ability to do something for the public, for the people. And the best way is to just keep them closed in the cage and bleed there, metaphorically, of course, instead of hitting them, because an agreement is a disaster in the Israeli eye and maybe also in many other eyes in the Middle East, because an agreement will save the regime. The regime will pay something. They will stop enrichment. They will maybe destroy part of the missiles, but they will stay there. They will get a lot of money. Sanctions will be off, and they will be able to regroup and to start all over. So, in the Israeli eye, the best thing to do is, of course, a real attack, a military action. The second option, if there is no military action and you'll ask Netanyahu, he'll tell you, okay, more sanctions, a lot more sanctions, even a naval blockade. And Naftali Bennett, when he was a prime minister in Israel, this was his strategy. He called it in Hebrew 1,000 small cuts that will make the body bleed enough and then just pass away. So the agreement is the worst case scenario, the last option for Netanyahu and for Israel. First option is the military. Second option is sanctions and strangling the regime from the outside.
Ben, you wrote earlier this week that Israel does not want to be seen by the U.S. as warmongering. It seems to me that this is a response to growing criticism of Israel by some in Trump's circle, including, Tucker Carlson comes to mind. How is Israel dealing with that situation?
Yes, this is a weird and not so optimistic thing that is happening right now, because in Israeli eyes, it's very logical and natural that the criticism on Israel and maybe even anti-Semitism is coming, the anti-Israeli sentiment is coming from the left, the far left, the progress, the woke, and all this stuff and jazz. Suddenly it comes from the other side as well. And this is something that Netanyahu and his people were not ready for. You have in a Haaretz newspaper today a huge feature in the weekend supplement about Tucker Carlson, and the headline is the scariest man in America. And I think this is a phenomenon that Israel is not did not think of ways to confront it and to deal with it, because it comes from the right. Now we in Israel have a very, very too far right government, and they find suddenly the enemies in the same place, in the far American right, and it is coming from the most pro-Israeli president ever. So it's something that no one in Israel really thought about how to deal with it, how to confront it, maybe how to change it. And I think it is going to be a very major story in Israel in the next few months.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Ben Caspit after this short break.
Today's transformation of the Middle East is at the center of global geopolitics. Whether you're an analyst, diplomat, executive, or academic, you need the best reporting and analysis to understand what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the world. Al-Monitor is the award-winning independent leader in Middle East news. From Riyadh to Beirut, Abu Dhabi to Doha, and Baghdad to Tehran, our team of over 100 expert journalists report daily on the top stories driving the regional trends. Download our mobile app and subscribe to Al-Monitor to follow what leaders and decision makers are reading every day. Go to almonitor.com, that's AL-MONITOR.com, and use promo code POD25, POD25 for a discount.
Okay, we're back. Ben, just one last question. I know this isn't a new issue, but what do you think was behind Trump coming out this week with such a strong criticism of Israeli President Herzog over the Netanyahu trial?
This is a huge story in Israel, maybe the number one story right now, because the president already did such a thing when he was having his speech in the Knesset, and this was, let's say, something that no one expected in the Knesset. You know, this was a very, very symbolic event, and suddenly is approaching the president. And right now, everyone in Israel that is not a hardcore Netanyahu man or voter is asking the $64 billion question is, what did Bibi pay to Trump in order to get these goods? Because attacking the Israeli president, in Israel, the president is the citizen number one. He's not the executive manager, this is the prime minister, but he is the number one citizen of the state. And to hear from Trump suddenly this language about the president only because he did not obey to the presidential order, and it's not even to pardon Netanyahu, because there is a huge majority in the Israeli public to pardon Netanyahu, but if you pardon Netanyahu according to the Israeli law, he has to resign and go home. The appeal was actually to cancel the trial, and this is something that cannot be done. And seeing President Trump talking this way to Herzog only because he did not obey makes you have to think, so what did he get in the return? Because, you know, Trump is a businessman. He's not giving you anything for free. So did Netanyahu agree to be more flexible in the Gaza issue? To swallow quietly the fact that the Palestinian Authority is back in Gaza, that Qatar is in Gaza, that Turkey is in Gaza? All these things were promised by the prime minister to his voters will not happen. Maybe flexible in the Iran issue. How come this deal came to life? This is a very, very troubling thing for the average Israeli to hear the President of the United States talking this way, although it's Trump and we're all used to him, etc., but still, it was a major blow in the center of the political map in Israel, and no one right now knows what did we have to pay in a national interests in order that the campaign for canceling the trial of the Prime Minister will go on in the president's own mouth.
Ben, thanks so much for your time, and we look forward to more of your reporting on all these issues.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Thanks for listening to the Al Monitor Brief. Be sure to follow Al Monitor for more on the stories impacting the Middle East. Until next time, I'm Adam Lucente.